Well, look, the Obama campaign spied on our campaign, and they've been caught, all right? And now let's see what happens to them. But they have been caught. They've been caught red-handed. It's probably treason. It's a horrible thing they did. It probably never happened before. At least nobody got caught doing it. But they used the intelligence agencies of our country to spy on my campaign, and they have been caught. And there are a lot of people involved. I don't want to say how much she's involved. Frankly, if he chooses her, that's fine, but that's a potential liability. We'll see. But President Obama knew about it. Joe Biden knew about it. Comey knew about it. Brennan, Clapper, the whole group, they all knew about it. Lisa Page and her lover Strzok, they all knew about it. And we have it documented. We have it in texts. We have it in all sorts of forms. They knew about it. It was a terrible thing. Should have never happened and should never be allowed to happen again to a president. This should never happen again. This was a setup like we've never seen. I think it's the political crime of the century. And they've been caught. So let's see what happens to them all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, just days after radical domestic terrorists on Twitter called to lay siege against the White House, President Trump is pulled out of a press briefing by the Secret Service after shots are fired outside the perimeter. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we're going to look at a bunch of breaking news stories about Russiagate, the hoax, the scandals. You got to hear that and a whole lot more. So stick around and check it out. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I'm your host, Craig. You guys know the drill. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, it's okay. And thank you to everybody who has. But if you haven't, please come here, click it, hit that bell, then select all so you get notified as soon as all these videos get posted. And please stick around at the end of the episode. As we do in every episode, we're going to do a segment called God's Grace is Greater. We're going to talk about God's grace. And today, we're going to talk about Christian warfare. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it has come to the point where we have to look to God to guide us on how to defeat this great evil that is trying to destroy us every single day. And we remind ourselves about God, his incredible eternal salvation through his son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit, then we can overcome it. So I hope you guys stick around to hear about that. Now, today we always go over and check the cue boards. 4620 is where we left off, and we haven't had anything new. But, of course, as usual, many breaking news stories, many different things to follow. And everything that Q has predicted, obviously, is in the process of either coming true or already has come true. And we are seeing an immense great awakening across the world. But we have a lot of trouble and trials ahead of us as we go into the hardest part of this entire plan, which is going through this election cycle where they have nothing to lose. And by they, I mean the infiltrators, the people who infiltrated our country in order to destroy it from within, those who sought to enrich themselves at our detriment, those who sold us out to the highest bidders around the world. Foreign adversaries were given access to classified information, weapons technologies, accessing, scheduling dates. They were able to infiltrate through, just having access to the simplest things like the schedules of border patrol officers and their crossing so that they could make their illegal crossings to get things into the United States that they otherwise would never have been able to get in here. All that has had the system turned off for now. And President Trump's doing everything he can to shut it all down. And that's what this is all about. The pandemic seemingly was a push from China to seize the global economy because America was skyrocketing past them, and we were succeeding on such a level that they couldn't handle our success, especially as it would prove that the system of communism, right, that the Communist Party uses in China is failing, and it's a failure every time it's implemented. Except they've gamed the system, they've censored the information, they've doctored the numbers to a point where people around the world weren't even able to see the actual realities of a communist command control system dictatorship as they have in China with the one-party rule. So it's all explained here, basically, what the calculated political gains were right here for this virus, what the desired outcomes were for this virus, and how it was able to spread so far, and how it was abetted by the fake news liars who are, obviously at war with the truth in this country, with the American people having freedom of speech, with our First Amendment right to just speak about these things, right? As if you need some sort of journalist license to, go and read articles and talk about things that are happening in the world, that you have no ability to filter those for yourselves. You have to be told how to filter them or how to process that information. And that's what Q kind of broke the paradigm of. He gave us raw information from which to draw our own logical conclusions, right? And here we are. So first, though, this video is brought to you in part by Brave Browser. If you guys haven't tried this out yet, give it a shot. It's a great browser. It's got all these features built into it. It's got a built-in Tor browser. It's got a VPN firewall. It's free. You can use the link in the description to download it. And if you'd use that link in the description of this video, they'll make a contribution to this channel. So it's a win-win. You get a great free product. It blocks the ads. It gives you a bunch of other built-in features. So check out the Brave browser today if you are interested in that. Now, just had to cover that real quick. The first story we're going to get into, though, is shots fired outside the White House. Apparently, and I was watching this press conference live when it happened, President Trump was up on the podium, and he was in the middle of his, about 2 or 3 or 5 minutes maybe into the press conference, and then the Secret Service came in and basically said, "You need to come with us, sir." They pulled him out of the room, and obviously, everybody started freaking out on Twitter, and everyone was going crazy, saying, what happened? And then Fox News reported there were gunshots outside the White House. Apparently, the Secret Service has neutralized a shooter that was obviously trying to infiltrate the White House. So you can read through this story. It's pretty simple what's happening. I think that it seems as though somebody was trying to, probably a very disturbed person was trying to effectively do something. Who knows? We'll have to wait till the full story comes out. But you can see more information if you go online and look through it. I mean, Twitter, there were some videos. But it's no surprise, right? This is what we've had happening. Imagine this. We're on Twitter right now. And I talked about this in the intro because it's important. This is a post from July 28th, right? Where this person, Adbusters, whoever they are, decides that it's okay to go online and say that they will lay siege to the White House for 50 days. Now, let me ask you something. In what world is this legal? In what world are you legally allowed to lay siege to a federal government building? Do you know what lay siege is, right? This is an old war term. This is going all the way back to the medieval times, and even all the way up through the modern era. There's laying siege is where you surround a building, city, town. Back in the day it was a fort or a castle or whatever, and you cut off its access to the outside world. And when you lay siege to something, the intent is to starve the people inside, or to, in the olden days, it was basically to keep people from, being able to get supplies in and fortify their defenses and their ability to sustain themselves. So we all know there's tunnels and stuff under, everything. So it's not like they're actually going to effectively keep people from going in and out of the White House. The thing that they're going to do, though, is they're restricting the public's right to access, all of our federal parks and office buildings and national treasures, as the White House would presumably be considered one of those. So my question is, where's the Department of Homeland Security? Why isn't the person who's running this ad under arrest or under investigation? If they are, I hope they are indicted and or picked up soon for this. And why is Twitter allowing this on their platform? What world do we live in, right? And then this encourages other psychopaths to go and do crazy things at the White House, which is what you saw today. So I had to talk about this because, look, you can say whatever you want, freedom of speech is great, peacefully assembled, great, go do it. But when you start using terms like lay siege, you're crossing a very, very distinct line between, some politically heated rhetoric to a violent call to action. You understand that. And the fact that these people are allowed to get away with this, and they're boosted and amplified by Twitter, right? 800 likes already, 4,400 retweets and comments. They're getting boosted by Twitter. It's insanity. It is. And then when we go on to Twitter and put up a video talking, having, a panel of doctors talk about a possible cure to the disease that is ravaging this country, they get shut down. But this gets left up with no censoring. Think about that. Just think about that for a second. We'll get into the next story. And this is why this is all heating up. We have major examples from what you saw recently with the explosion in Beirut. It seems to be a starting point for a sort of hot war that's happening across the globe, where I think this is all connected to some major deals that were made. You have China signing a very long-term deal with Iran. 25-year plan. Well, I think they plan on trying to outlast Trump, because 25 years would be, roughly, even if President Trump never left office until the day he passed, because, something happened. I'm just hypothetically saying here, that would be the plan, is to get to that point. So China knows. They've always played the long game, because they understand that it's not about instant gratification, and especially, in a culture that's as old as theirs, they understand they'll go through thousands of years without, much change to their society. So with the internet, the world has become smaller. So you look at this and you think, oh, okay, this is what I think they're all worried about. Crossfire Hurricane is not just about spying on President Trump. Crossfire Hurricane is an indictment on our entire government. And when you have that kind of indictment against an entire government, what does that do? It actually destabilizes our global alliances and our global relationships with other countries, even our adversaries, in the sense that these other countries, they thought they owned us. They thought they could pay our politicians to control us, to infiltrate us, to subvert our government, to infiltrate our government, I should say, to infiltrate our Ivy League education system, to infiltrate all of our, infrastructure and grid projects, to steal big tech companies' technology, whether it's through forced compliance or whether it's through some other form of, corporate espionage, whatever you want to call it, government-sanctioned corporate espionage. These people thought they could get away with it. Then President Trump comes along. What does he do? He gets the military involved. And what does the military do? The military is not having it. Why? Quite simply put, the military's been watching this, and they've been planning on how to save this country without going into a global war. Because if you are China, can you really blame China? Because it's in their system, corruption is basically, commended. It's encouraged. A bribery is just a part of what it means to be a politician. That's not our system. But they tried to do that with our system, and guess who were just standing hand in fist, waiting for their payday? The Democrats. And now we've exposed the Democrats. And this goes back. It's not just Democrats. It's not just Republicans. It's a spectrum, a wide spectrum of everyone across the board, from Republican, Democrat, and everything in between. Right? Then this was all exposed. Right? Crossfire Hurricane. They spied on President Trump. Okay. Now you have the Senate chairman subpoenaing the FBI director because there is a massive problem with the information that we're being given. All of the declassified information points to this happening, yet there's no action. There is no arrest. You listen to Attorney General Barr. He was on Mark Levin's show this weekend, and he even said it in terms that were kind of worrying to me. He said, unless we have evidence of a crime, we're not going to go forward with an investigation. And I'm thinking to myself, unless you have evidence of a crime? Well, what about the tranches of documents that have been released that show these people were orchestrating a coup against a sitting president. Are we just going to ignore that? Right? So that aside, they're putting on their little dog and pony show, as it were, in Congress, which usually doesn't, ultimately doesn't affect the outcome that we desire, which is for people to be held accountable. But there's a national security aspect. Everything I just said before about the confidence these other countries have in dealing with us, how that gets rattled when our politicians, if we say, let's say we arrest the former president and the vice president, let's just hypothetically say that, what happens to all the deals that were inked between our countries while they were in office? Do they just go away? Can our side legally say that they're null and void because they were part of a corruption bracket, some sort of, global mafia type mobster organized crime racket? I don't know. And maybe that's why certain things aren't happening as people wish they would. I'm not saying that as an excuse for it not to happen. I'm just saying that as a matter of fact, or a matter of opinion, I should say, that could be the facts. So, you look at it all and you start putting it together, and you hear about Durham coming out here before Labor Day. Well, I hope so. We're going to keep watching. August, though, is a traditionally hot month, as Q pointed out back several times, pointing to August as being a point at which things are going to change. And I don't know if you can tell, things have changed dramatically. Even back to this Q post 4014, where Q told us basically that the Democratic convention has been pushed to mid-August because, why? Because they're going to be pushing a different candidate. It says change of batter coming. What could that mean? What Q was hinting at all the way back in April was that there's no way they're going to run with Biden. So maybe they do, but I don't think they will. I think they're going to try to sneak a different candidate in at the last moment. Now, ultimately, we'll see what happens, or whoever his VP pick is, we'll see what happens with that. But this is what Q has told us was coming, right? And this all has to do with the Flynn, Russia, FISA, and everything else that was happening with this corruption. So you have these state governments out here working, and mayors in major cities working as the henchmen for a corrupt, mafia-like Democratic Party, which is in turn destroying cities by releasing criminals. I mean, I know I live here in California, and it's insane. The governor of California is just releasing violent criminals and felons and saying we need to protect them from corona. It's like, well, what about us? You need to protect us from the violent criminals that we literally pay you taxes to arrest, put on trial, and throw in jail? Oh, it's their army. Oh, I get it. They need street thugs. They call us, all these names, and they're the ones who are out in the streets acting like fascists, having their brigades of criminals mobbing and looting and doing all types of things. Think about what's happening in Chicago. Did you see the looting that happened recently? You can put it all together for yourself. I don't have to explain it to you. But 150 members of the Minnesota National Guard have been deployed down to Guantanamo Bay, another troop rotation. I wonder why there's so many troop rotations going down to Guantanamo Bay. That'd be interesting to figure out. I think a few more people might be down there than we really realize. And again, go back to what I said at the beginning of this video, in the earlier part of this video, talking about, why we don't have these high-level public arrests, the national security aspect. We do have to get along with these other countries. We do have to uphold a semblance of, integrity within our constitutional republic, or else we're not going to get taken seriously by any other country. Who's going to want to make a deal with a country who one day has a leader who is following the rules and following the law and working inside of international law to help, promote success for your own country, but also, global success? Then you have other, 4 years later, 8 years later, you have a bunch of criminals who run a mafia out of the White House and, use MS-13 and other thugs to do their wet works and all the things that we've talked about here possibly being happened. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe we may have more people down in Guantanamo than we believe. Now, this all happened recently here. Did you see these videos? I mean, you got to look at this stuff. This was in Russia. Massive explosion. You guys saw that one in Beirut. I mean, look at that. Massive explosion. Again, this is another one. Huge fire in England, Birmingham, England. We also had a major fire at a factory in Birmingham, Alabama. Or no, Birmingham in I don't know, London, UK, wherever. Also, we have another one, multiple injuries in Baltimore, Maryland, with a major gas line explosion. And then I saw another one in Turkey where a hotel seems to be blown up. So what I'm trying to get at here is, I put out the tweet today, and I think, and I've talked to people, and everybody, you know, people I talk to seem to agree that it's almost like we're at war right now, yet nobody kind of realizes it. And what does Q say, right? The war is real. So is this like a tit for tat back and forth between nations over, you know, releasing information and you know, what's going to end up happening there? And does it help that we have, you know, an active insurrection inside of our own country led by presumably people who have been involved in some very nefarious and you know, insidious, maybe treasonous actions against our country? I don't know. Like I said, China's inking that deal, 25-year deal with Iran. But here's the problem, really. Just to get into another news story here, California is offering seemingly to pay $1,250 to people who test positive for corona. I mean, think about that. What are they doing? What are they doing? Of course, it's obvious. All they're doing now is trying to pump up the numbers. Why? Because it helps keep their narrative going. And that's the problem. It was interesting to hear Attorney General Barr give his discussion on Mark Levin. I encourage you all to go watch the video if you want, but he talked about this specifically, saying, you know, when you have a narrative and you have two sides with their narratives, then you don't have any room for objective truth. And that's what the media, I think, has established, or has at least accomplished for now, in undermining our constitutional republic most effectively with, is the fact that they've taken away objective truth and they've replaced objective truth with a narrative. So our narrative is a conspiracy theorist, and we're crazy, we're all deranged, we're all racist, we're all this, we're all that. You know, that's what they call us. And their narrative is that they're the altruistic, they love the people, even though they don't leave their little bubbles in their liberal cities. They barely get out of their multi-million-dollar apartments, you know, other than to go down to the yoga studio or to go to, you know, Whole Foods. And they literally have destroyed objective truth. Now we're trying to restore that, right? By saying, look at these facts, and any logical person takes these sets of facts and puts it together like this. And they go, no. You see, your narrative is that these aren't peaceful protesters who are burning down police precincts, setting police cars on fire, assaulting police officers, committing violent hate crimes, intimidating people from being able to leave their houses, shooting each other, lawlessness in the streets, looting businesses, etc. We see that as mostly peaceful. So therefore, you're wrong. That's their whole argument. And so when you look at it on its face, you go, what? What are these people talking about? How do they lie so effectively? It's because they've destroyed the objective truth, and we need to re-establish what the objective truth is. I mean, for example, here we go. Top Chicago prosecutor Kim Foxx's office dismissing more than 25,000 felony cases, including murders, shootings, sexual assaults, and Jussie Smollett's hoax attack. This is why Chicago is being looted and destroyed by these criminals, these domestic terrorists, these criminal mafias, these whatever you want to call them, cartels. It's because these, a lot of times Soros backed, sometimes not, sometimes just backed by the Democrat machine, which is as corrupt as the day is long. These people have just decided to stop enforcing the law and to do everything they can actually to help foster an environment where violent crime is normal, is the norm. Just part and parcel of living in a big city, you know, where hate hoaxes and murders and sexual assaults, it's all just part and parcel. Shooting every day. think about that. And then think about this, okay? When you see this, think about why this is happening. Now, there's a few theories out there. I've heard a few interesting theories. Some people have speculated that it could be that major cities would be the prime target in a global war. So this is some underhanded way to empty out cities, to kind of push people out into the outer areas, to keep developing our manufacturing, to give us a better chance if we were to be invaded or attacked. Okay, I'm not sure about that one. Doesn't sound that likely. Another one is that these Democrats are so bought and paid for by the corrupt, global cartel of globalists that they are purposefully driving middle class, middle income, and upper middle class income people out of their major cities, so that over the next few years, the violence will increase, the rioting will increase, the looting will increase, the property values will go down and down and down. Well, and then guess what happens? Then all the billionaires come back in and buy it all back up, right? And then for pennies on the dollar, they buy properties they could have, or they would have never bought unless this had happened. And then they get paid. They pay their campaign contributions to the people, put them back in office. Then they bring back the cops. Voila. There you go. That's how you steal property from people, from the middle class. So I don't know. But when you start looking at it all together, it's disturbing. Now, again, Bill Barr, I'll leave a link to it, talked about the Democrat Party resistance, saying, quote, they were trying to impeach him from day one, and they've shredded the norms. Now, this is 100% true. This goes into everything I'm talking about here. The Democrats and rhinos and others have come together to go after President Trump. Why? Because of everything I talked about in this video all the way up to now. And they've shredded all the norms, and they've basically decided it's okay to launch an insurrection in this country. They've decided it's okay to pretend that or to turn a blind eye to domestic terrorism because it suits their political agenda. They've literally been involved in a plot to overthrow a duly elected president by abusing the intelligence services of this nation, and abusing the DOJ and the FBI, and abusing the executive branch. But I guess we're just going to live in this nightmare until we the people, start doing what they really don't want us to do. Marching together peacefully, but in numbers that are so large that they will realize that we outnumber them 1,000 to 1. Heck, maybe a 10,000 to 1, maybe 100,000 to 1, maybe more, right? Maybe more. But if you think about it, you'd have to understand that there are major stories that continue to happen. Lightfoot's Chicago is just getting looted, as I talked about before. I'll leave links to all these to give you an idea of what they're doing there in Georgetown, in D.C., just, terrorizing people, won't let them sleep. Here, the teachers. This, I thought, was an interesting story I wanted to talk about really quick on the Daily Wire. Talking about teachers openly fret that parents might hear them brainwashing children. Call parents dangerous. Now listen to this quote. So this is from a teacher on Matthew R.K., who's an educator and author of a book called How to Lead Meaningful Race Conversations in the Classroom. Great. Here's what he says. So this fall, virtual class discussion will have many potential spectators, parents, siblings, etc. in the same room. We'll never be quite sure who is overhearing the discourse. What does this do for our equity inclusion work? How much have students depended on somewhat secure barriers of our physical classrooms to encourage vulnerability? This sounds like a sick person who's trying to groom your child. Like, oh man, if their parents are around, how will we encourage them to be vulnerable in front of us? This is disgusting. Who talks this way about children? How many of us have installed some version of what happens here stays here to help this? What happens here stays here? I mean, I get it if the kid comes in and he's got bruises and you're like, is somebody hitting you at home? I get that. But I don't understand. I think what they're talking about here is racism, right? It says, because listen, it says, while conversation about race are in my wheelhouse and remain a concern in this no walls environment, I am most intrigued by the damage that helicopter snowplow parents can do in the host conversations about gender sexuality. And while conservative parents are my chief concern, I know that the damage can come from the left too if we are engaged in the messy work of destabilizing a kid's racism or homophobia or transphobia. How much do you want their classmates' parents piling on? So what they're saying basically is that this guy's obviously, I'm sure, a leftist, is what he's saying is it's dangerous for parents to be able to overhear our secret conversations with kids where we dispel things that their parents teach them. And they use the cover of racism, homophobia, or transphobia. What world do I live in? Who are these people? Are they the parents? Are they the guardians that have been assigned by the state, the wards of the state that are taking care of your children? Our children? Is this what it's literally satanic. And it's all about controlling what kids think, because that's why, you know, if they were to make a gain of function virus as a bioweapon and release it onto the world, and it only targets older people and young kids are totally fine, why do you think that is? Perhaps it's because kids are vulnerable, as it says here, and impressionable and easily manipulated. Think about it. I know you guys know what I'm thinking. It's the same thing here. But this is psychotic, and these people, it's not even psychotic. It's more maniacal than it is psychotic. It's maniacal, and it's almost like they're like, how will we be able to take advantage of your children if you're listening? What? Why would you want to send your kids to a school where where the teacher doesn't want you to hear their conversations about gender sexuality? Or, I mean, what? This is insanity. This is why we have kids out wearing, you know, a hammer and sickle, smashing store windows and lighting things on fires because of this right here. So I just had to talk about that. And just remember that the greatest recovery in U.S. history is happening right now. So, yeah, if it is a war, I can tell you who's losing it right now, and it ain't us. And now, of course, on, you know, right as President Trump and everybody starts talking about how kids, you know, are really immune to this thing, we have to remind ourselves that a child in the U.S. right now is 2,000 times more likely to be the victim of child trafficking than die from the coronavirus. So what's the biggest threat? What's the bigger threat to public health and our safety and security? You tell me. Finally, hit piece here from NBC News. I don't know if it's a hit piece, but it's just QAnon groups have millions of members on Facebook, documents show. So now they're just like trying to be like objective, like, oh, we're just now realizing that millions of people are following this QAnon thing. And I'm like thinking to myself, these people are so transparent in their deception, and they think they're so clever. I mean, why would they go through the whole, you know, rigmarole of like writing this article when they could just ask the question of President Trump, is QAnon real? What is it? Explain it to us. It's because they know QAnon's real. They know that the patriots who support it are real. They know that we number them millions, so we outnumber them probably thousands to one. And they know that we are the news now. So what do? They pretend it doesn't exist. They call for it to be censored. They try to delete anyone who talks about it and shares information about it. And they try to reestablish their control over what you think and do. So, yep, that's where we're going to leave it. Hope you guys enjoyed it today. A few more things before we go. Watch these last few videos. Share them on your social media. Get the word out that way. Also, don't forget to leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. You can find me over here while you still can on Twitter at JustInformYou, and over at Informed_News is the official site for Just Informed Talk. Also, don't forget the YouTube channel, Just Informed Clips, where I'm putting up clips from my library. And from here to the election, I'm going to try to get all the clips that I have taken over the last few years that prove basically all of the things that we've talked about here through the Cube posts and everything else. And I'm going to put them up one by one. And if you guys want to get them, share them, get that word out, go check out justinformedclips.com or Just Informed Clips on YouTube as well. I'm also on Parler at Just Informed Talk, and BitChute.com/JustInformedTalk is the backup channel. Also on JustinformedNews.com, which is the official website for Just Informed Talk. So go check that out as well. And if you want to make a few contribution to this channel to keep it running, they've done everything they can to put it out of business. You can come here to Patreon, patreon.com/JustInformedTalk. It's a monthly donation. Your support keeps this channel alive. I also have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation. Links to everything will be in the description below this video. Now, Before we go, we do a segment at the end called God's Grace is Greater. And like I said at the beginning, we're going to talk about Christian warfare. And we're going to be reading out of the book of Ephesians. This is a verse that we've heard from Q a few times, but I want to reiterate it because it's important. And this is Ephesians 6, 10 through 20. It says, "Finally, be strengthened by the Lord in his vast strength. Put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the tactics of the devil. For our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the world powers of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavens. This is why you must take up the full armor of God, so that you may be able to resist in the evil day, and having prepared everything, to take your stand. Stand therefore with truth like a belt around your waist, righteousness like armor on your chest, and your feet sandaled with readiness for the gospel of peace. In every situation take the shield of faith, and with it you will be able to extinguish the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is God's word. With every prayer and request, pray at all times in the Spirit, and stay alert in this. With all perseverance and intercession for all the saints, pray also for me, that the message may be given to me when I open my mouth to make known with boldness the mystery of the gospel. For this I am an ambassador in chains. Pray that I might be bold enough in him to speak as I should." Now remember, this isn't the first time that we as Christians have been persecuted over the history of time. And it's not going to be the last. And we are meant to stand against this evil. In this whole verse, it tells us to ready ourselves against the evil day, or ready ourselves for the evil day, so that we can stand against the devil. And that's what we do every day, whether we're out marching in the streets, whether we're sharing this stuff online, whether we're sharing the gospel of Christ, which is the most important thing. That's how we overcome this. And we protect ourselves, and we stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves, because that's what a Christian does. We stand up for others who can't stand up for themselves. So remember here, you wear your truth, righteousness, have readiness, have faith. Salvation will be there, right? And remember that God's word is our weapon. So that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out these last few videos, get them out there. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and if you like this content, want to see me make more, hit the like button, smash it, punch it, whatever, I don't care. Hit the like button if you guys like this content, want to see me make more. That's it for me though. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, patriots.